there's two things we want to see from you. It's curiosity. We want to see you almost salivating with that desire to learn, and also to be open and to adapt. P&L, everything else will follow.
And there's always this wildfire that takes out those who aren't fully invested, and the ones who survive. The market will always reward those who see through cycles.
And we have got that epic infrastructure, which is required to be a world-class firm. All right, Alex, so we are back again, but this time in a studio, not in our courtyard at the office, mainly because, well, we don't want to be sitting out in 40-degree heat and melting. So it's a very lovely environment, and it's good to be back.
Yes, I think all those sessions we had just in front of the pool in the outdoor Cyprus training courtyard will be back in winter. When Cyprus is more forgivable on the weather. And very excited to be here in the studio, but very excited for today's session. We haven't done a session together, probably, most of the year. We've had a lot going on, a lot happening in the markets, and very excited to speak about some really, standout performances, but not even standout performances, standout learning, standout development, what it takes to be at the very top of the game, and more importantly, what we've been doing in the Cyprus office.
Yeah, exactly. This is one thing I really wanted to kind of go on, which is basically being able to sit back and reflect on, what's been happening. We've had a lot of evolving going on. We've had, a lot of standout trades, and where we're also heading, right? And we can kind of go straight into the Cyprus office, and we have evolved so much in the time that I've been in, and since the time we've actually opened the Cyprus, with two, quite buzzing floors now. The grad floor is actually slowly filling up, which is great. We're nearly at full capacity. And what I've noticed is this unique dynamic, which is that mix of hungry juniors, the grads, that curiosity that we're really kind of striving to develop. And of course, the seasoned performers sharing that same space, pushing each other. And we wanted to prove that we can build a world-class, long-term, profitable trading floor in the sun. And, we have one of the most impactful hubs in the whole of the world, in my opinion, with where we are. With that, now we're almost full, and we've got that big mix of youth and experience. How did the culture here form from the beginning? Because it's good to kind of get like an overall aspect on that side. And you also mentioned that there was an initial turnover. What was that period like, starting and to where we are now?
Yeah, so when we first started the team now, over 2 and a bit years ago, with starting a fresh team, but more importantly, starting a team out in a hot climate. And I mean, when I say hot, it's a hot climate, especially during June, July, August, was always going to be a challenge, because there have been many successful traders, many successful teams based out in London, who then, one of the primary reasons for tax purposes, wanted to go trade out in Gibraltar, wanted to go trade out in Dubai. And many of those traders and trading teams have suffered and careers ended. And we were very aware that we didn't want to be a repeat event where we take, potentially some experienced traders into a more, a climate where there's sunshine 300 days of the year, great beaches. But how do we become even more professional than what we were in London? And what led the charge with that was in the book, the trader is he's called the collector in Traders of Our Time. We had our initial discussions, and we said we needed to set this professional, high growth attitude on what's expected. And so when we came out to Cyprus, it was first, how do we get the infrastructure going? How do we ensure that, we decided we didn't want to be in the center of a city, so we're on the outskirts of Limassol, where we could get a piece of land, where we could convert an old house. And we created 2 training floors, a beautiful outdoor classroom, there's a swimming pool, there's a built gym, and there's all this wonderful space, almost like a Silicon Valley experience, where traders are at their desk, during the Trump tariff, 16, 18-hour days. How are they able to recharge? How are they able to kind of have these physiological flashes? But more importantly, how do we get the knowledge share going? And I think almost the feng shui of the trading environment is quite, just accidentally beautiful, in the sense we have 2 trading floors, and in the middle is the knowledge, the training, the education, this outdoor, beautiful courtyard. And so as you cross from the one training floor across the training arena into the other training floor, you get this experience of a wealth of knowledge, of acquiring expertise. And as you mentioned, to your point, we have this mixture of senior traders, and we'll be speaking about today one of the traders who had a $1.5 million day not so long ago. We'll be speaking about a junior trader who's over $600,000 on the year and is on track for his first seven-figure year. We'll be speaking about another junior trader who went down almost 80,000 pounds on his trading account, and how he came back from that. And so all of these stories, whilst developing these junior traders, but during this moment where we had put, when electricity was being cut out in the village, we had to build a generator. We're trying to become the very first zero carbon, neutral carbon trading floor, in the sense where we've got these solar panels that we've installed. But during this time, there's been a change of personnel. There's been change of traders. The initial group in the first year has changed quite significantly. Some traders who weren't up to potentially the certain performance culture, the pushing, the effort that we needed to get there. But we've always had a solid, 3 traders that we've been able to build a team around. And part of the process of having that established anchor, that we can then create this mixture, as you mentioned, of youth and experience, because the most important part of why senior traders start struggling later in their careers, if seniors just stick with seniors, they don't have that fresh view in the market. It's called the expert problem, where all of a sudden you become a little bit too tunnel vision in your edge and your approach, and junior traders fracture that a lot. And so when they fracture that, they open up new perspectives. And that, a lot of time, this work that we're doing with Professor Angus Fletcher and the book that he's releasing at the back end, within the next month, is how do you let the rookie fly? And so senior traders, when they see the errors of rookies, it kind of reestablishes or counter approaches of how you can trade a trade. And so during this time, we've had this changing of the guard. But now, what's been always the most fascinating is 2023, April 23 to around August 24 was probably one of the most difficult markets we've had the last 5-6 years. Just low volatility. The macro news environment was, rather suppressed. Then we had around July, so a year ago, a change of guard. A lot of junior traders, some senior traders who were struggling with the conditions. Junior traders who thought that they would never make it, and the market always sends a wildfire to take out the people who maybe aren't that committed to the game, or people aren't willing to have the resilience to fight, to cultivate a skill, to develop an edge. And so during that process and during that time, once there was this exodus, almost this exorcism of those who weren't fully invested in this game, Trump came in. The traders who survived that period will started having their best ever weeks, best ever months, best ever year. And there's always this wildfire that takes out those who aren't fully invested. And the ones who survive, the market will always reward those who see through cycles. And so a large part of this game is surviving. And so here in Cyprus, after over 2 and a bit years, and a large degree with the tremendous effort of yourself, of engineering collaboration bridges, where we have one of the protocols is, and maybe I can kind of turn it around of you, on you. What is the practice that you have on the Cyprus floor to get traders to get the experience? Because we have one floor with loads of experience, another floor with less experience. What's the method? What's the process? What's the practice in order to share that type of knowledge?
Yeah. So for me, thank you for the kind words as well there. And it's actually great that just to bounce back onto what you were saying there a second ago as well about that exodus. I was actually talking to the grads just yesterday on that and saying about how when there was like low volatility, and I also brought up the story of the ringing of the bell and you know how one heard it, then the other heard it, and then you almost had the guys who were not willing to stick it out, and like you said, weren't fully committed. And unfortunately for them, you know, then everything came back in, the volatility, and those that stayed were rewarded, and massively so. But yeah, for me, you know, when we do have these grads, and obviously now we're having, we've got 5 new grads starting next week, and for me, you know, my biggest the biggest pride that I take out of everything is, of course, managing the office, but also being part of the risk team and managing risk. I can see where the money is being made. I can see where the markets are, you know, being the markets are being hit massively.
And that's from a collective, the whole Axia
Exactly.
collective across all the floors.
Globally, and I'm able to take the information from the words, the talks, the conversations that are being said on the trading floor with the live traders, and bring that onto the grad floor. And there's times where I'll go over there and say, right, you know, we just had a huge move in the Bund. What was the reason? And I almost go in there with a lot of questions as opposed to a lot of information to start with, because I want, again, that curiosity. And it's one thing that I say to everybody that starts with us and that comes to Cyprus is, there's 2 things we want to see from you. It's curiosity. We want to see you almost salivating with that desire to learn, and also to be open and to adapt. P&L, you know, everything else will follow if you have those 2 things. And so, you know, part of my process is to go there and stimulate that curiosity, ask the questions, and then also to then offset what I'm hearing, you know, from the trading floor one, and give them my perspective of what is being said and spoken about on that floor, so they're getting that knowledge from me, from one perspective. But then another thing that I'm also doing is, we've got some recent new live traders who are also on that floor, going onto the grad floor as well, and saying from their perspective, because of course they're trading the markets, and they're going through their plans, and asking the grads, rightfully as well, what their plans are first before they even go through those plans. So a combination of all of these things, I think is the best way, because these grads get it, you know, hearing from my perspective, they're hearing from the other traders' perspective. But the main point is, like you said, is having that bridge, having that communication, and that sharing of knowledge, which is the most important.
And being, you know, creating that permeable membrane where there's no just a separate trading floor 1 or a separate trading floor 2. And because the more connectivity, the more interactions, the more meaningful interactions, driving and stimulating the curiosity, the greater the gradient of growth. And that's what we're always trying to, you know, as opposed to, you know, single cell, you know, intelligence. We do. I'm doing a lot of research and some work with a gentleman that we'll be having a podcast with him in September, Professor Michael Levin, a developmental biologist, and he speaks about cancer cells. And a cancer cell is simply a cell that is disconnected from the healthy cells, from the communication. So effectively, it's not a defect, you know, a so-called genetic defect. What it is a complete breakdown in communication. And so a cancer cell on the floor is when someone becomes isolated. A cancer cell is an isolation from the collective healthy cells. So how do you connect? How do you create this collaborative environment with competent subunits? You know, if you have, and those competent subunits are those traders with experience, and those trade. But we've also engineered the environment where there's these, you know, in the central between the 2 floors, where the workshops that you host, you know, 2 to 3 workshops, you know, every week, where traders are engaging, a gym where traders are working out different experiences. So creating all these little nodes of interaction around the floor, including the you know, the kitchen, or, you know, the breakout area on weekends. The junior traders who live, you know, close to the environment come out, you know, especially in summer, you know, swimming at the pool. And during that time, whilst they're swimming at that pool, there's conversations on the market, what you looked at the past week, the debriefing. And the more interactions, the more exchanges, you change the gradient and the shape of the curve of development and performance. And seeing now, from my perspective, and also, you know, the hard work that you know, you're doing along with our head of HR, you know, Valentine, of acquiring new talent from around Europe. I mean, we even get people coming all the way from the US
And Canada.
And from Canada to join us here in the far flungs of the Mediterranean. and seeing the growth, seeing the stability of the team, because there's always fragility in the beginning, but it's people with that type of growth mindset, that creative mindset. We solve, we iterate, and now that stability, you could start building a large sphere of edge, a large sphere of knowledge edge, of collective edge. And I don't put it lightly that where we're going with the Cyprus team and the Cyprus office, that in a couple of years' time, it could be the main European prop firm for the company, for Axia. And if it's the main prop team for the Axia group, it'll be the main prop team across Europe, regardless of any other company. And that's what's incredibly exciting. And there's the manifestation of that is some of the performances that we've had. And I don't know if we want to segue into what this year is about. And then, speaking about the leader, the head trader of the Cyprus office.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a perfect place right now to go straight into that. And just going back onto the trading environment, it's been incredibly amazing to see how we're growing, and we have got that epic infrastructure which is required to be a world-class firm. It's not just, and it's amazing to have all these different areas of growth, like we were saying, the gym, the pool, but we also have that generator, which power a factory. We have, Starlinks upon Starlink, backups upon backups upon backups.
Fiber optic as well as Starlinks.
Yes. So at any point, all of our traders, and we have, you wouldn't have traders of that caliber, in a world, they need to be in a world-class environment with world-class infrastructure, and we have that, and it's incredibly amazing to see and be around that.
For any trader, this is our own pitch to any trader who is looking for an environment that maybe is outside the city smog, who wants to have an environment that's more exposed to sunshine. There is now an office, and it took us a while to get to this stage, but there is now an office that offers that facility. So, anyone who wants to look into joining Axia Cyprus, you can send an email to the Axia team and get in touch, because there's something special. We're probably reaching capacity any moment soon. So does that mean we build another floor? We don't know. Or do we just keep it like this? We also are very excited to be partnering with some universities in Cyprus to acquire future talent. So it's truly looking like there's this new trading ecosystem, this new arena in Cyprus that, through the hard work of the team, where we can develop some of the greatest futures traders within the space.